I've known Anna since we were in high school. We are part of a group of 5, and now we hang out as families for Christmas, birthdays, Easter, etc. It has been like this for over 10 years. My partner Greg is good friends with Anna's husband, Darren. Anna recently told me she is having an affair with one of their family friends, who is also Darren's sister's ex-partner. At the time, I remained non-judgmental and supportive. Once the information set in, and I realized how disloyal and gross the whole situation is, my sense of justice and moral compass came into play. Darren is a good man. Anna says he is a wonderful father and husband, but she just doesn't feel the connection with him anymore. Despite faking it for the last 6 months to keep her secret under wraps, I knew keeping this from Greg might backfire on me if he found out. I also hid the secret, so I told him. He is shattered for his mate, and it is eating at him. I've told Anna that Greg knows, and she's pissed at me for the betrayal, expecting me to take it to my grave. She knows they're catching up soon, and Greg plans to tell him. Anna has not asked for a separation because they have an overseas trip coming up in October. She has told me financially that she can't leave, keeping in mind she regularly gets expensive treatments like Botox and takes steroids to look her best. We want to tell Darren about her affair in 2 weeks. Will we be the jerks? Side note, some have asked why we are waiting. Greg works away, and he is home in 2 weeks, closer to 1.5 weeks now, but feels like due to the nature of the conversation, it should be in person. He knows Darren will be very upset, possibly angry, and wants to be here to support him in those initial moments. I feel like I should also mention that there are kids involved. Do we tell him via text, sooner now, for an update? Some great advice here. Let's clear some things up. They have always had separate bank accounts, they do not join money and never have, specifically because of how she spends money. They both work and put in a percentage of how much they earn into the home. She does not have access to his money and will not be able to clean it out in the 2 weeks. I know for a fact that he keeps a very close eye on the credit cards. While we were away, and she was buying unnecessary things like clothing, she made sure to only use her card, not the credit. She says he will question her about it since they're trying to pay off the house and save for the trip to Bali. We are in Australia, and laws are different. Things will more than likely be 50-50 financially. Greg can't quickly fly or drive back from work. It's a 13-hour drive one way and a $600 plane fare. He is fly in fly out and cannot leave until rest and relaxation begins, while we all live in the same state. Australia is pretty big. She told me directly that she would want the kids to be 50-50. Anna has never liked kids, and while she loves her own, I think the thought of having them full-time sounds like a walking nightmare to her, given the person she is. Anna has never liked kids, and while she loves her own, I think the thought of having them full-time sounds like a walking nightmare to her. The person she is having an affair with has lunch with her locally sometimes while she is on a lunch break from work. They have run into acquaintances multiple times. He comes for family dinner twice a week, and the kids have caught Anna sitting on his lap before while Darren is not home. He comes over when Darren is on night shift, while the kids are in the home. Anna has apparently been able to cover up by telling the kids she does his injections and that it's private, so she administered them behind locked doors. He is also on steroids, and she is a nurse. Darren did ask if I thought she was cheating back in January due to her intimacy drive suddenly becoming very heightened at the time. I thought it was because of a recent surgery she had. I don't think it will be too hard to convince him, and I'd say he has an inkling already, as Anna has said over the past few months he has become possessive and jealous for obvious reasons. The family trip planned in October is with another family, friend, and their family, for the husband's 40th birthday. They have split activities, accommodation, etc. I think we do need to keep in mind that Darren may choose to stay and work it out. In this case, Greg and I will be put in a very awkward position and possibly be removed from the group, which I am okay with, but a little bit disheartened at the thought of losing people I've spent the last 20 years with. We have moved the meetup to the day Greg flies in, Tuesday. If he was flying home sooner, it would have been done sooner. While it sucks, I've had to sit on the info by the time we confront him. I will have been told exactly 2 weeks and 3 days. Greg and I agree that meeting in person will be best for this particular friend. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I've told Anna that Greg knows she's upset with me for the betrayal, expecting me to keep it a secret. She is wrong, not only for the affair, obviously, but she also wronged you by expecting you to lie to your partner. If she didn't want him to know, she shouldn't have told you. Comment 2. She's upset with me for the betrayal, the cheater being angry about betrayal, the irony. Also, not asking for separation because of a trip. What will happen after the trip? You would be the jerk if you don't confront Darren immediately. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through this. So, Greg finally got back home last Tuesday, and we decided to meet Darren that evening. We met at our usual spot, a cozy little bar where we've had countless get-together over the years. Darren was in a good mood, talking about the upcoming trip to Bali and how excited the kids were. Greg and I exchanged a look, knowing we were about to shatter his world. Greg started the conversation, saying there was something serious we needed to discuss. Darren looked confused but nodded for us to continue. Greg took a deep breath and told Darren about Anna's affair. The look on Darren's face was heartbreaking. He went from confusion to disbelief, then anger. He asked for details, and Greg told him everything we knew. Darren was silent for a long time, just staring at his drink. Finally, he said he needed some time to process everything and left the bar without another word. The next few days were tense. Darren didn't reach out to us, and we didn't want to push him. Anna, on the other hand, was furious. She called me multiple times, leaving angry voicemails about how I had betrayed her trust. I felt guilty but knew we had done the right thing. Greg was also struggling, feeling torn between his loyalty to Darren and the fallout from Anna. Then, a week later, Darren called Greg and asked to meet. They met up, and Darren told Greg he had confronted Anna. She admitted to the affair but tried to downplay it, saying it was just a fling and didn't mean anything. Darren was devastated but said he needed to think about what to do next. He thanked Greg for telling him and said he appreciated having a friend who cared enough to be honest. Meanwhile, Anna was trying to do damage control. She started acting overly affectionate towards Darren, trying to convince him that they could work things out. She even suggested they go to couples therapy. Darren was skeptical but agreed to give it a try for the sake of the kids. This decision put Greg and me in a tough spot. We knew Darren was trying to do what he thought was best for his family, but we also knew Anna's true colors. During this time, I started reflecting on my friendship with Anna. We had been friends for so long, but I realized I had overlooked a lot of red flags over the years. Anna had always been self-centered, often putting her needs above others. I remembered a time in high school when she had spread a rumor about another friend to get closer to a guy she liked. I had brushed it off back then, but now I saw it as a pattern of behavior. Greg and I decided to give Darren some space but let him know we were there for him. We also had to navigate our own relationship, as this whole situation had put a strain on us. We had several long talks about trust and loyalty, and I realized how much I valued Greg's honesty and integrity. A couple of weeks later, Darren called me. He sounded more composed and said he wanted to talk. We met up, and he told me he had decided to separate from Anna. He couldn't get past the betrayal and felt it was best for both of them to move on. He thanked me for being honest with him and said he appreciated having friends who cared enough to tell him the truth, even when it was hard. Anna, on the other hand, was not taking the separation well. She was angry and bitter, blaming me for ruining her marriage. She even tried to turn our mutual friends against me, but most of them saw through her manipulation. It was a tough time, but I felt a sense of relief knowing I had done the right thing. As for the kids, Darren and Anna agreed to a 50-50 custody arrangement. Darren was determined to be there for his kids and provide a stable environment for them. He started focusing on his work and spending quality time with the kids, trying to make the best of a difficult situation. One evening, Darren and I had a heart-to-heart conversation. He opened up about his feelings of betrayal and how he was struggling to move forward. He also shared some personal history that I hadn't known before. Darren's parents had divorced when he was young, and he had always vowed to provide a stable family for his kids. This made Anna's betrayal even more painful for him. He admitted that he had seen signs of Anna's selfishness over the years but had chosen to ignore them, hoping things would get better. This conversation made me realize how deeply Darren's past had influenced his decisions. It also made me appreciate his strength and resilience. Despite everything, he was determined to be a good father and move forward with his life. As for Greg and me, this whole experience brought us closer together. We had faced a tough situation and come out stronger on the other side. We also learned the importance of honesty and trust in our relationship. So that's where things stand now. Darren is focusing on his kids and rebuilding his life, while Anna is dealing with the consequences of her actions. Greg and I are supporting Darren as best we can and trying to move forward ourselves. Thanks for reading. Am I the idiot for confronting my daughter's camp counselor after she bullied her? My daughter, G, is 12 years old and is attending a coding and robotics day camp. She loves it and has made a lot of friends over the past couple of weeks. However, she's become less enthusiastic about going to camp each day. I asked her what was wrong, but she was initially hesitant to say anything specific. I'd usually get a non-committal "I don't know" or something similar. A few days ago, she broke down and told me that the camp counselor assigned to her group has been mean to her. I pressed her further, and from what I gather, the camp counselor in question has criticized her work a great deal, forcefully kicked G's day bag when it was in her way without asking her to move it first, reprimanded her for small things like talking too loudly or having a messy workstation, while not doing the same for other campers, and oddly enough, has been picking apart what she brings for lunch. I pack my daughter a homemade sandwich or wrap, a divided fruit and veggie tray, a small bag of chips, and a small dessert like a twin pack of Oreos, pretty standard, in my opinion. According to G, the camp counselor has branded her meal unhealthy and said something about there being a camp policy against junk food. The camp counselor does not do this to any other kids, and I have found 0 rules against junk food in the online handbook parents were given. Obviously, this can't continue. When I brought her in this morning, I asked to speak to the camp counselor. I discussed my concerns, and the camp counselor told me that G was disruptive. She added that it's probably because she brings a bunch of junk food. I asked about the camp counselor kicking G's day bag and she was unable to give me a straight answer. I asked if any other counselors could confirm G's disruptive behavior, and it seemed to fluster her. Again, no direct answer. By that point, I was getting frustrated with her non-answers and asked why she had a problem with the lunches that I bring G. The more I asked, the more standoffish and condescending she seemed to get. The camp counselor said that I shouldn't be sending G with empty calories and reiterated her line about the camp having a rule against junk food. My tolerance for nonsense had pretty much been reached, so I told her calmly but firmly that I am her mother, not her. She is a camp counselor, not a nutritionist. She's there to make sure that G and the other kids have a fun and safe time, and I suggested that she stick to her role as a camp counselor. I told her that if I hear anything more about G feeling picked on or unwelcome in her presence, that I will be speaking with her superior. I told a couple of friends about this to blow off some steam, and they told me that I was too harsh and that I acted like a Karen. I hadn't gone in looking for a fight, but the way the camp counselor spoke to me and about G really rubbed me the wrong way. Am I the idiot now for an update? First of all, thank you to everyone who took time out of their day to provide a judgment and/or advice. G just got home from camp and told me that she was cornered by the camp counselor and given a long-winded lecture. According to G, it lasted for about 20 minutes, in which the camp counselor half apologized but also spent most of that time justifying why she felt that way. Not only did the camp counselor needlessly take G aside from a beloved activity that I paid quite a pretty penny for her to participate in for no good reason, but she's clearly not willing to lay off her strange hang-ups around my daughter. I was also told by G that plenty of other kids have junk food and even energy drinks, iced coffee in their lunches, but none have been given any grief about it. I'm currently fuming, so I plan to wait a few hours for the initial rage to subside before I write a firm email to the head of the camp. This is not the kind of experience that I wanted my daughter to have, especially not with a hobby that she could one day turn into a fulfilling career. I'll be damned if I let some barely out of high school, teenage mean girl dim my daughter's shine or sour her passions. I'll be requesting that either G is moved to a different group and the camp counselor has no further interaction with her, or a full refund. Thankfully, it's the start of the weekend and there's no camp until Monday. We have annual passes to a local water park, and I think I'll surprise her with a little trip tomorrow to get both of our minds off this mess. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. It's obvious this counselor has an issue, and instead of discussing the supposedly disruptive behavior and food issue with you, she decided to bully your daughter. You are never a Karen or whatever other insult people like to throw around when you are defending your child against an adult bully. Comment 2, not the idiot. You are advocating for your daughter and addressing valid concerns about how the camp counselor was treating her. Standing up for your child doesn't make you a Karen, it makes you a caring parent. Now for the update. Hey everyone. Thanks for all your comments and support. So, after the weekend at the water park, which was a blast and much needed, I decided to send that email to the head of the camp. I laid out everything that had happened, from the camp counselor's behavior to the unjustified lecture G received. I requested that G be moved to a different group or that we get a full refund. I was pretty anxious about the response, but I knew I had to do something to protect my daughter. On Monday morning, I got a reply from the camp director. They apologized for the situation and assured me they would look into it, promising to get back to me by the end of the day. I felt a bit relieved but still worried about how G's day would go. I decided to drop her off myself and have a quick chat with the director in person. They seemed genuinely concerned and promised to keep an eye on the camp counselor. When I picked G up that afternoon, she seemed a bit more cheerful. She told me that the camp counselor had been noticeably absent from her group all day. Instead, another counselor, who G said was much nicer, had taken over. I was cautiously optimistic but knew this might just be a temporary fix. The next day, I received another email from the camp director. They had conducted a thorough investigation and found that the camp counselor had indeed been unfairly targeting G. They assured me that the counselor would no longer be working with G's group and that they would be undergoing additional training. They also offered to move G to a different group with a different counselor, which I gladly accepted. G was thrilled with the change. Her new counselor was supportive and encouraging, and G quickly regained her enthusiasm for camp. She even started talking about some new projects she was working on and how much fun she was having with her friends. It was such a relief to see her happy again. However, the situation had some fallout. I found out through another parent that the camp counselor had been let go. Apparently, this wasn't the first time there had been complaints about her behavior. While I felt a bit bad that someone lost their job, I knew it was the right decision for the well-being of the kids at the camp. This whole ordeal got me thinking about why the camp counselor might have acted the way she did. I remembered a conversation I had with another parent a while back. They mentioned that the camp counselor had a tough upbringing and had always been very strict about health and nutrition. It seemed like she was projecting her own issues onto G, which was unfair and unprofessional. It didn't excuse her behavior, but it did help me understand where she might have been coming from. As for G, she seemed to bounce back quickly. She even made a new friend in her new group, a girl named Elle, who shared her love for coding and robotics. They started working on a project together, and G was excited to show me their progress every day. It was heartwarming to see her so passionate and engaged again. One evening, G and I were talking about the whole situation, and she opened up about how it had made her feel. She admitted that she had started to doubt herself and her abilities because of the camp counselor's constant criticism. It broke my heart to hear that, but I reassured her that she was talented and capable. We talked about the importance of standing up for yourself and not letting others bring you down. It was a valuable lesson for both of us. Looking back, I realized that this experience had brought G and me closer together. We had always been close, but going through this ordeal together had strengthened our bond. It also made me more aware of the importance of advocating for my child and not letting anyone undermine her confidence. As the camp session came to an end, G was sad to say goodbye to her new friends and counselors, but she was also excited about the future. She told me she wanted to continue exploring coding and robotics and even mentioned wanting to join a club at school. I promised her that we would look into it and support her in any way we could. In the end, the situation had a positive outcome. G regained her confidence and passion, and I learned the importance of standing up for my child. It wasn't an easy journey, but it was worth it to see G happy and thriving again. Thanks for reading and for all your support. Am I the idiot for refusing to get back with my serial cheater ex-wife despite her begging and causing scenes at my workplace? My now ex-wife and I divorced roughly 6 months ago. Recently, she has been asking me rather frequently to move back in, to do couples therapy, and if we can start dating again. I keep refusing to do any of the above. Now, to the reason we divorced and why I'm not interested in getting back together. 6 years ago, she had her first affair. We had been married for 2.5 years. I decided to do what I thought was the right thing and tried to save the marriage. I went as far as accepting all the blame she placed on me for her actions. The following couple of years were rocky, but we managed to find some peace and mostly mend things. 2 years later, my father was diagnosed with cancer and eventually lost the battle. I spent the following months focusing on my marriage, spending as much time with my father as I could and supporting emotionally my mother. Fast forward 6 to 8 months, and I noticed my wife started to withdraw, started acting differently, and started going out with friends a lot more than normal. I suspected she was cheating again, but I couldn't find actual proof. Flash forward to last fall, she comes back from a weekend with friends and says she wants a divorce. I agreed because things never were the same after the first affair, and she had been acting distant again, doing the same suspicious actions as before. Once we filed, and the wheels were in motion, we had a lot of conversations about the previous years, and as suspected, she had been cheating off and on for the last 3 years. This brings us to the present, where I now know most of the truth and refuse to be with a serial cheater. She keeps saying that's not who she is as a person, that I'm giving up on us, her, and that she regrets everything she's done in the past. It's really messing with me mentally. I feel like a jerk for putting myself first for once, and I feel like I'm being selfish. I guess I'm just really looking for some unbiased opinions. Am I the idiot? To add, I can't keep up with all the comments here and honestly didn't expect this much interaction. I'm going to answer some common questions. 1. Why did I even post this? I guess I was having a bad day and second-guessing myself. Yes, I know how crazy that sounds. 2. Do we have kids? No kids, just a very old dog that's been there the entire relationship. 3. Why haven't I blocked her? Because I was trying to be civil and not completely lose a best friend. I know she doesn't deserve that title after everything she's done. I also still have belongings in the house, and getting a storage unit isn't in the budget right now. Also, all my family and friends live in another state, so keeping stuff there isn't really an option at the moment either. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. Do not go back ever. I did, and regret it, not just because of the cheating, which was on both sides, but because of how different we have become. We are many years down the track now, and she has become financially and medically dependent on me. I feel guilt whenever I think about leaving. I know my adult children would have trouble understanding as it would seem out of the blue, so learn from me, my friend. Do not go back. Comment 2, not the idiot. She doesn't want to be in a relationship with you. It's far more likely that she wants your financial support. It's expensive to be a single person living on your own. She could have a very strong financial incentive to try to get you back. If you don't have kids together, you don't need to ever talk to her again. Just block her, go live your best life. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking with me through all this. So, 2 weeks ago, I made a huge mistake that changed everything. I was feeling pretty low and decided to meet up with my ex-wife for coffee. I thought maybe we could have a civil conversation and get some closure. She had been texting me non-stop, and I guess I just wanted to see if she was genuinely remorseful. We met at our usual coffee shop, and she seemed different, more sincere, maybe. She apologized again and said she wanted to make things right. I told her I wasn't interested in getting back together, but I agreed to at least hear her out. During our conversation, she mentioned that she had been seeing a therapist and was working on her issues. She even showed me some notes from her sessions, which seemed legit. I started to feel a bit of hope, thinking maybe she had changed. We talked for hours, and by the end of it, I agreed to go to a therapy session with her, just to see if there was any chance of salvaging a friendship, if nothing else. The therapy session was eye-opening. The therapist asked us to talk about our feelings and what we wanted moving forward. My ex-wife was emotional, saying she regretted everything and wanted to make amends. I was skeptical but also felt a bit of my old feelings for her creeping back. The therapist suggested we try a few more sessions to see if we could at least find some common ground. I reluctantly agreed, thinking it couldn't hurt. Over the next week, we attended 2 more therapy sessions. Things seemed to be going well, and I started to think maybe we could at least be friends. But then I made another mistake. I let my guard down and invited her over to my place to talk. We ended up having a few drinks, and one thing led to another. We slept together. The next morning, I felt like an idiot. I knew it was a mistake, but I couldn't take it back. After that night, she started acting like we were back together. She would show up at my place unannounced, text me constantly, and even started talking about moving back in. I felt trapped and didn't know how to handle it. I tried to set boundaries, but she ignored them. It was like she thought that one night had erased all the years of pain and betrayal. Then things took a darker turn. I found out she had been telling people we were back together and working things out. I confronted her about it, and she got defensive, saying she thought that's what I wanted. I realized I had made a huge mistake by letting her back into my life, even for a moment. The fallout was immediate. My mental health took a nosedive, and I started having panic attacks. I couldn't focus at work, and my friends noticed I was withdrawing. I finally decided to cut all ties with her. I blocked her number, deleted her from social media, and told her not to contact me again. It was brutal, but I knew it was the only way to move forward. In the midst of all this, I started reflecting on our past and realized there were red flags I had ignored from the beginning. When we first started dating, she had a habit of flirting with other guys, but I brushed it off as harmless. I remembered a time when we were at a party, and she spent most of the night talking to another guy. I felt uneasy but didn't say anything because I didn't want to seem jealous. Looking back, I should have trusted my instincts. I also thought about my own actions and how I had enabled her behavior after her first affair. I took all the blame, thinking it would save our marriage. I didn't hold her accountable, and that set the tone for the rest of our relationship. I realized I had been too forgiving, too willing to overlook her flaws because I wanted to believe in the person I thought she could be. As I was dealing with all this, I got a call from my mom. She told me she had found some old letters my dad had written to me before he passed away. I hadn't seen them before because they were tucked away in a box in the attic. Reading those letters was like a punch to the gut. My dad wrote about how proud he was of me and how he hoped I would find happiness. He also mentioned that he had noticed how unhappy I seemed in my marriage and urged me to follow my heart. Those letters gave me the strength to finally let go of my ex-wife for good. I realized I had been holding on to a toxic relationship because I was afraid of being alone, but being alone was better than being with someone who constantly hurt me. I started focusing on myself, going to therapy on my own, and reconnecting with friends and family. But before I wrap this up, there's something else I need to mention. My ex-wife didn't take the breakup well. She started showing up at my workplace, causing scenes and making it difficult for me to focus. I had to get a restraining order against her, which was a painful and humiliating process. It felt like I was reliving the worst moments of our marriage all over again. So that's where things stand now. I'm trying to rebuild my life, but it's not easy. The emotional scars are deep, and some days are harder than others, but I'm determined to move forward and find happiness on my own terms.